You are tuning in to the Human Side of Engineering and Product Development podcast, brought to you by Saratech, where we bring you industry leaders and some of the brightest minds in engineering solutions and product development. I'm Andy Dio, your host. Join me as we discover the inspiring stories of the people behind the most innovative and game-changing solutions in the market today. So tune in and enjoy. Hi, Chad, and welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Not too bad. Hope
Good.
You're doing well on your end.
Not too bad. It's actually been a very busy day, so this is a nice break to sit down and talk to you.
Sounds good. I appreciate your time. So currently, you are part of our customer care team, and you are a technical manager. But you deal
Correct.
a lot with customer support and taking care of, support calls and inquiries that are coming in at Saratech. Is that right?
Yep, that is correct. So I'm probably one of the many few that I talk to probably every single customer across the board, either NX, Team Center, Solid Edge. I'm kind of one of the main people that gets called all the time, especially with licensing questions, or even a lot of our other engineers that have issues with licensing or dealing with the software. They'll call me directly and point them in the right direction.
Okay. Now, looking on your LinkedIn profile, you started your career in the Air Force.
Actually, yeah, that's about right. So I born and raised in Detroit area. So my dad was a GM executive, and right out of high school, General Motors was recruiting people. I wouldn't say so much recruiting, but educating a lot of the high schools in the area.
Uh-huh.
So from there, I went from the high school to the local college right next to General Motors, went to college in automotive design for a year and decided to join the Air Force, and went off and traveled around the world for a little bit. And then when I came back, I went right back into working for General Motors and went right back to college and got my bachelor's degree and everything in automotive design. And actually, I got my associate's in automotive design, and then I got my bachelor's in business management.
I see. Did you always have an interest in engineering, or how did that come about?
That's probably, ever since I was a kid, I remember being around the engineering, especially with my dad, my grandfather. We were a General Motors family, multiple generations, worked for GM. My grandfathers, my great-grandfathers, they all worked at General Motors. So it's been a long-term business. I still buy a lot of GM cars today.
Sure. I mean, being from Detroit, that's natural, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's very natural. Yep, that is true.
All right. So after the Air Force, you came in and started working for GM. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. So I was actually working for a contract with GM with Intex. So probably one of my first major vehicles was the Fiero project back in the day.
Oh, I remember the Fiero.
Yeah. So I was one of the designers on the Fiero. I did the front fascia, the rear fascia. And then I actually worked for Chrysler first, and then I went to General Motors. I worked for Chrysler, I think, for a year or two, and then went to General Motors after I finished up my associates. They brought me in as a direct hire, and then it was nice being an employee at General Motors. They paid for my bachelor's degree. And,
that's always nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. So I was at General Motors for 5 years, and then I went back to Chrysler for 8 years. I was contracted back as part of the IBM support team. And back in the day, and actually that's how I got involved with NX. Back then it was Unigraphics. We were all designing on CATIA. And then from there, I was actually one of the people that did the evaluations while working at General Motors. We had McDonnell Douglas come in, train us all of us CATIA designers. Mm-hmm. And then we did an evaluation. Then we became the old C4 support team. It was General Motors with EDS back in the day.
I see. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, throughout your career, you've probably used every CAD applications out there, CATIA, NX, Solid Edge, probably, AutoCAD, probably everything, right?
Yep, that is true.
Now, looking at how technology advances, they should be easier to use as, the technology matures. But is that really true? Or it's just a matter of right now there's so many different functionalities and everything that's packed into these tools that the users, there's no way an average user can know how to use it all or know how to
No,
do everything.
I find that out with myself. I mean, I'm constantly in education, constantly dealing with enable it sessions. I mean, just this past week, I was in meetings with Siemens and the technical teams, and I was learning more about the Team Center because now Team Center is going more and more cloud environment.
Mm-hmm.
So the software is moving to cloud, the data management's moving to cloud. So here I was sitting down educating myself now because now I in turn go to customer sites and do evaluations and give my recommendations, but constantly changing. The software's changing. We're trying to make it user friendly more and more. I'm always going out there when I'm teaching NX classes. If I tell the people, the engineers I deal with, if there's something that you might have seen in another software that was easy for you to use, put it in as an enhancement request in NX or Solid Edge or Team Center, because of the fact that, Siemens is always continuously every 6 months releasing a new release of software. So if we can keep putting in those enhancements into the software, they get enough of them together. It's just making it easier for the customer in the long run.
Now, you mentioned continuous release, which was a Siemens initiative that started a few years back. Does that cause more issues for you as a on a support side because there's always new things going out?
Yeah, I mean, there is. I mean, because we had a lot of customers at the time on version 11 or version 12 of NX, and instead of naming it NX13, which could be a bad number for some people, they went to NX 1847, which was the year that Siemens was incorporated. So that's where the number came from.
Interesting.
And then every 27 digits, they came out with a new release. So it was 1847. Then I think it went to 1926, then 1953, 1980, 2007. And then now we're at 2206. So that is the production release today is 2206. Siemens and Saratech and a few of our major customers, we are doing testing right now in 2212. So if there's customers that we have that we see that they have a lot of power users, we'll invite them to those testing sessions or beta sessions because we want to make sure that there's no bugs in the systems.
Right.
Okay.
So in your career, you've been in a lot of roles. So you've been on a user end.
Yep.
You've been on an administrator end. Now you're on the support end, right?
Yep.
So as a user, you really appreciated and understood how important it is to get timely support when you need it, right? Because projects don't wait for you. Projects need to get done, and you need to get it done. So how does that affect your approach now that you're on the support side of things?
Well, on the support end, so I built a lot of relationships with a lot of customers today, and if they're not emailing our support line, which is support@saratech.com. Some of them are also including me on those emails because I always tell everybody, send it to support@saratech.com, include me on those emails, and I'll respond right away. If I'm in the office, if I'm not at a customer site, or if I'm not in another call, I will respond back right to you. And I've been complimented many, many times where, the response team or the response between my team have been, minutes, not hours.
Right.
And we tell the customers, if you have not been called within 30 minutes, call us back because we will get another engineer. We have over a dozen engineers spread out throughout the United States, East Coast, West Coast. I mean, our Siemens support center that we have internally, we have people monitoring our support line from 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern to 8 o'clock at night, Eastern time. So we're covering East Coast and West Coast customers, and we have, we've got over 1,000 customers today. So we're always online. I mean, it's like I said, this is a nice little break. I probably have already had 4 or 5 conference calls today with customers that are either down and they're reaching out to me immediately because they have an issue, or they've reached out to our support line and the case was assigned to me where I had to go out there and, acknowledge that customer and find out what's going on. But at the same time, You mentioned I've been on the sales end of it. I've been on the user side of it. I've been on the design side, which is good because I can interact with a lot of our salespeople too. And a lot of our salespeople will come to me directly and say, "Hey, I'm giving a proposal on this license or that license. Am I correct?" And that's where I can validate a lot of our sales team. So, I'm always educating our team, but at the same time, I'm doing education as well.
Right. And it never stops. There's so much new technologies out there and things that you have to continuously educate yourself,
That's correct.
And that's the thing that you mentioned. There's a team of people. It's not just Chad, right?
Yep.
Because no one can know everything. No. And we all need help from time to time. So what is your process or your approach to handling a support case?
Well, our process is, we inform the customers. If you haven't any issues, we always send out, when we have a new customer come online, we'll send them a nice little flyer and it gives our phone number, our email address, and we can email that, issue that they're having at the time. I always emphasize to customers, send us some pictures, send us a little video, send us whatever you have before it even gets assigned to an engineer, because then, our call center will know who to send it to. So if it's a Team Center issue or if an NX issue, it's going to go to 3 different groups. It could be the Team Center group. They've got 4 or 5 guys on that team. We also have an NX team, which, has probably 3 or 4 guys that are always on, that are dedicated for support cases. And then we also have Solid Edge guys that are out there too. We've got a couple of Solid Edge people that are available as well. So as soon as we get our case assigned to us, we do get an email immediately. I'll read the email, log in our Salesforce, our internal Salesforce, find out what the issue is. If they included a video or some screenshots to us, I'll review that, call that customer back immediately. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, I'm requesting a Teams meeting with that customer because I want to physically see what's going on on that client machine or that server. Especially, I mean, this morning I had a customer that called me up and says, "Hey, my server went down. I don't know what happened." "Well, what did you do recently?" "Well, I did some updates on our firewall." "Okay, well, let's go back and take a look at that." So we found out, well, he tightened up that firewall. So we had to open up a port, which is 28,000 for NX. So we have to set up some rules for the inbound and outbound on that server to allow that communication between the server and the client machine. So once we added that port to the rules, to the firewall rule, everything was good. The clients were up and running. And then this is a company that had 12 users that were sitting still. Mm-hmm. So here we know it was an immediate. So that's why he called me directly and says, "I need your help now." Fine, no problem. I jumped on the Teams meeting. We figured it out. We're already back up and running. If I could not figure it out, a lot of times I will issue an emergency license because maybe that license that he just received, it's a new license, just added some more products. It might have been corrupted.
Yep.
I have had a couple corrupted licenses that were issued from Siemens. So that's why I got to go back to Siemens and ask them to regenerate a new license for me because, hey, it got corrupted. There was a bug in the license file. It's only a text file. It gets, generated with a license key, but it's a text file. Cyberspace, it might have got somehow, a corrosion or
sure.
a bug or something. Who knows? Sure. But yeah, overall, I mean, we always want to contact that customer within minutes, figure out the issue, and then move on. And then when we're done, we always send out a survey too, because we want to make sure that we did the issue properly, our communication was fast, and that the customer is happy with our results. Because our progress on making those customers happy is our number one priority.
Right.
We want to make sure that they're always running smoothly, especially this time of year. People are have budget that's left over for education. We'll do some training, either in-house, virtually, on-site. So we're always communicating with a lot of our customers. And I'm one of those people that do communicate with at least 10, 20 customers every day.
That's great. Keeps you busy.
It keeps me very busy. I mean,
so being on, obviously you've been doing support for a while. what are some of the most common issues that you've seen, and what are some of your general recommendation, like things that keep popping up over and over and over, you see all the time, you say, hey, if only people would do this, you avoid that headache all the time.
Yep. Well, I mentioned that firewall. That is a very common issue because now with the hackers that are out there, we actually have had a couple customers been hacked, been taken advantage of, and have been blackmailed, not bribed, but blackmailed, saying, hey, I've got your server. I locked you out.
Yep.
We've got all this data that's out there. And, here they want Bitcoin to get their server released. We have had customers get hacked. And now a lot of our customers are getting on board, especially with stuff getting out to the cloud, running Amazon AWS servers, Microsoft Azure servers, or it's a server that's in-house. I mean, everything is a dedicated IP, or, they didn't change a password. Maybe the password was set to password still. And a hacker was able to go out there and take advantage of that server. So the firewalls are getting tighter and tighter, and adding ports and inbound and outbound rules to those firewalls has become a very common issue lately. I mean, it's not common. It's not an issue. We're here to help.
Yeah.
But I see that happening at least once a week for Saratech support. Licenses is a big one because we always, there's a lot of new releases that come out. So every time there's a new release, the customers always reach out to us and say, hey, I just received my new license. I'm downloading the new software. Where can I get the new software? Either I'll point it to the Siemens Support Center, or I'll send them a download link from our internal server. So we've done that. And then a lot of times I may be sending them the latest and greatest license manager, the latest and greatest license file, so that I know he's always using the latest and greatest code and software up to date.
Okay. That's good to know. Good tip. Yeah. Obviously, cybersecurity is very, very important nowadays.
Yes.
As an administrator, is there specific things that you would recommend, for CAD admins or people who manage or run server should pay attention to before they implement changes? Should they have a certain process in place or look for certain things? Is there any recommendations that you have for that?
Well, a lot of recommendations I give customers is give us a call, because I want to make sure they do it right the first time. I don't want you to go out as a CAD administrator or, a server administrator. If you're not sure how the software works or the license managers work, I get a lot of CAD administrators call me up and say, I went out there and tried it and I broke it. I don't know what I did. Well, fine. Let's go out there. Let's take a look. And then I see immediately, I can see what's wrong with it. And I can say, oh, this is the issue. Let's delete this, or let's correct this area. So I highly recommend, customers give us a call, give our support line a call. Let us, guide you in the right direction, or, let's take baby steps and teach you at the same time, so that I know down the road you're going to do it correctly. But that's always my main recommendation. Give me a call. I don't mind taking time and assisting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, all of the probably thousands of cases you've seen, and you don't have to mention any names or companies here, but what's the most interesting case that you can remember?
The most interesting case? Boy, that's a good one. I've had a couple good ones in the past where, the people call us up. Well, I had one case that called me up years ago when I was working for even IBM. I literally just installed this brand new computer, delivered it to this user, and then they turned around and called me up saying it's not working. I says, it was working perfectly. I just dropped it off.
Yeah.
This is the very next day. And I don't know what happened, but the monitor would not work. So I had to go back. I had to move, go to the next building. I was actually working for Chrysler back then.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened. We all figured that the cleaning crew might accidentally knocked over the monitor and broke it. But yeah, that was an interesting one, because the user kept saying it just won't turn on. I'm like, well, okay, well, hit the power button. And, because I could dial into the computer and see that it was running.
Yeah.
But the monitor wasn't working. And so that was an interesting. But it's always nice to go out there working with customers and seeing a lot of the parts that are very interesting that they have designed. I support the automotive. I support a lot of our aerospace customers. My background is, ex-Air Force. I'm also a pilot, and I love working with the aerospace companies. And I just enjoy it when I see a nice wing, being designed or structure, or some advanced, assemblies, or some of the advanced surfacing parts that I really enjoy, seeing. And we always sign NDAs too, because, we want to make sure everything is confidential. So, a lot of customers will say, hey, do we have an NDA in place? I say, I don't know. Let me check with my legal department and see if we do. If not, hey, let's sign an up-to-date one, because they do change from time to time. But I always recommend, sign an NDA, between Saratech and all our customers, so that we can share that data and view it. Because even a lot of times, the customers will send me the data because they're having issues on that computer, and they want to see if it's a bug. So I'll tell them, hey, let me send you an upload link. I'll test out the data and I'll say, yes, it is a bug, or no, it works perfectly on my computer. And then we know it's a bug on your end. So we may do a recommendation for install a patch, because a lot of times patches come out once a month, and maybe that customer doesn't have the latest patch. So that way I can look and see what that, patch in detail, what it corrected. It might have corrected that issue. So just as sorry to get offline, but it's
Sure.
always nice to work with some of these customers and see some of the parts.
Yeah. Now, so you recommend obviously always install and update patches when they get released.
Yeah.
What about every continuous release? Should you wait every other release? What's the right?
Well, there's patches in between. So a lot of our customers are, we'll say, for an example, a lot of our customers are using NX 1980 today. Well, 2206 is out for production now. That's the next release. But there is numbers in between there. So you got, the 1988, you've got, the 1990, the 2000. So 2000 build was like the latest patch before it went to the next series. So if a person or a user is only using 1980, has never applied any patches, I always recommend always apply the latest and greatest patch for that series of continuous release.
Okay. Good advice.
Yeah.
And again, what's the thing you always say? If you have questions, do what?
Call Saratech support.
Sounds good. Hey, Chad, I really appreciate your time. You probably have some customer support calls stacking up right now, but really appreciate your time and sharing some insights with us in the world of customer support, and really appreciate you sharing some nice tips and tricks for listeners. And I'll talk to you possibly in a future episode.
All right. Hey, call me anytime. Nice talking to you, Andy.
All right. Thank you.